Van could still remember the cold November day when Taehyung stood before her. His hand tucked into the pockets of his long coat, his expression distant. The city's autumn leaves swirled around them and the sharp wind bit at her cheeks. It was supposed to be the start of something beautiful between them, but instead, it became the moment she feared to recall. I need to focus on my career, Taehyung had said, his voice steady but devoid of warmth. Van had come to cherish. I can't have any distractions, Van. Distractions. The word stung the most. She had been nothing but supportive of him, of his dreams. Yet here she was, standing before the men she loved, being reduced to nothing more than a hindrance in his path. She tried to swallow the pain, nodding. Forcing herself to understand. I get it, she whispered, though her heart shattered with every word. I'll always care about you, Taehyung added, his gaze still detached, as if the moment was something rehearsed, not heartfelt. He turned and walked away, leaving Vian standing in the middle of the park, her tears mixing with the chilly wind. She stayed rooted in her place for what felt like hours, clutching on her coat tighter as the weight of his rejection passed heavily on her chest. Despite the love they shared, Taehyung had chosen his career over her, and that truth was unbearable. Weeks passed and Ryan tried to move on, though the hollow ache in her chest refused to fade. Taehyung had always been unpredictable, hard to read, but his sudden coldness towards her still left her puzzled. She threw herself into work, meeting friends, and trying to drown the thoughts of him. But then, one fateful night, everything changed. It was a late Friday evening when Ryan decided to meet up with her friends at a cafe. The streets were bustling with life, the city glowing with its usual charm. She sat by the window sipping her coffee when her gaze fell on a familiar figure walking down the street. Taehyung. Her heart skipped a beat. It had been a while since she last saw him, and despite everything, a part of her still longed to see him again. But what she saw next stopped her breath. Taehyung wasn't alone. There, holding his hand, was a girl, someone Ryan had never seen before. She was petite with long flowing hair, laughing as Taehyung leaned in to whisper something in her ear. He looked carefree, happy, and undeniably different. The way he touched the girl, the way he smiled. It wasn't the Taehyung Ryan remembered. He looked like a complete playboy. The world seemed to spin around her. She clenched her hands around the cup, her heart racing in confusion and hurt. Had he lied? Had his career been just an excuse? She felt sick. She wanted to storm out of the cafe. Confront him, demand answers, but instead she watched as they disappeared around the corner, leaving her drowning in her thoughts. For the next few days, Vine couldn't shake off the image of Taehyung and that girl. She tried to reason with herself. Maybe he had moved on. Maybe she was overthinking, but deep down something didn't feel right. There was a strange unease, a gnawing feeling that told her there was more to the story. It was a quiet night in Ryan's apartment, the rain tapping gently against the windows when the terror began. She had just finished a late night movie marathon trying to distract herself from the memories that plagued her. The glow of the TV was the only source of light in the living room when she heard it, a faint scratch of noise coming from the hallway. At first, she thought it was her mind playing tricks on her, but then the sound grew louder. Slowly, she stood up, her heart pounding in her chest. Her apartment was on third floor. And she rarely had visitors, especially this late at night. With cautious steps, she approached the front door, listening intently. Another scratch, then a soft click. The door handle twisted, and before Ryan could react, the door creaked open. Standing in the doorway, illuminated by the faint light from the hallway, was Taehyung. But he wasn't the Taehyung she remembered. His eyes were dark, almost lifeless. And there was a crooked smile on his lips that sent shivers down her spine. He stepped inside as if he owned the place, closing the door behind him with a soft click. He said, his voice lower than usual, almost teasing. Long time no see. Her breath hitched. What are you doing here? How did you? Before she could finish, he moved closer, cutting off her words with a single finger placed against her lips. Shh. She stepped back, her heart racing. Something was wrong. This wasn't the man she knew. His entire demeanor had shifted. Gone was the calm, composed Taehyung. In his place was someone unnerving, someone dangerous. "You're scared?" he said, cocking his head to the side, his eyes gleaming with amusement. Why are you scared of me? She stammered, backing away further until she felt the edge of the sofa against her legs. He chuckled, a deep, unsettling sound. You never really knew me, did you? His smile widened, his eyes darkening. You thought I was just a simple guy with a career and some dreams? But there's more to me. So much more. Her skin prickled with fear. What are you talking about? Taehyung leaned in closer, his breath warm against her ear. I'm not just one person, Ryan. There's more to me than you could ever understand. Ryan's mind raced, trying to make sense of his words. She had heard of dissociative identity disorder before, but this. This was something else entirely. His entire personality had shifted, his energy radiating danger. He was no longer the calm, soft spoken man she had fallen in love with. He was someone entirely different. Taehyung, this isn't you, she whispered, trying to reach the man she once knew. His smile faded, replaced by a cold, hard stare. What do you mean? This is me, he suddenly chuckled. I've always been watching you, always been obsessed with you. Her blood ran cold. You're different, he caressed her cheek with his hand lightly. Stay away from me, Ryan whispered, trying to maintain her composure, and moved away. Taehyung's eyes glinted with something dark and twisted as he reached out to touch her cheek. His fingers were cold, sending chills down her spine. Van sweated his hand away, her breathing shallow. Leave now. But Taehyung only grinned wider. Why would I leave? I like it here. It's cozy. He took a step back, running his hand through his hair before pacing around the room like a predator circling its prey. Her mind raced. She needed to get out. She needed to escape, but the door was behind him. And every exit seemed too far away. She glanced towards her phone, but it was on the coffee table out of reach. I see you're thinking about running, Taehyung said, reading her thoughts. His voice dripped with amusement. But you won't get far, not when I am around. Her heart hammered in her chest as she tried to think of a way out. Taehyung, please, whatever's going on with you, we can fix it. Just let me help you. For a moment, his expression softened, a flicker of the old Taehyung breaking through, but just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. His smile returned, cold and menacing. Help me? I don't need your help. I've gotten along just fine without you. But now that I know how you feel, it's different. Her heart raced as she realized the complexity of Taehyung's mind. What do you mean by how I feel? I saw you watching me with that girl, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You looked so broken. It made me want you more. Ryan's anger flared. So you think this is some kind of game? You can't just come into my life whenever you want and act like everything is fine. Game, he repeated, his voice low and dangerous. This is far from a game. I am playing for keeps. Suddenly, Taehyung's expression shifted again, a softness returning to his eyes. but it was overpowered by his other personality really soon, as he chuckled, shaking his head. What do you even want from me? She asked, her voice shaking. His smirk widened as he closed the distance, whispering in her ear. This is it for part 1. If you're curious what will happen in the next part, then subscribe. Also, like this video, comment down what would happen next. What do you think about this story so far? Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram. Yeah, that's it for today. Bye bye.